So this morning we're going to have a lesson on the cook stove. And my poor little cook stove sits under a drip because the foolish person who put my chimney in and put the flashing around it on the roof did a very poor job. And we've tried to fix it, but there's still a drip. Thank heavens today is a sunny day. That's why this bucket sits here, because it catches water in the rain. It also has rainwater in it to wash my dishes and me and everything else. So that's why the top of this cook stove is rusty. And it won't be rusty at the end of next week because I will brush it all down and give it a good coating of high heat paint. You can see all the hot spots also wear off the paint. And that's why the top of it is gray and the bottom of it's black. So, lessons in the wood stove. When you're getting it started in the morning, as you can see, it's cold. Ooh, it is cold, and it's chilly outside too. There's frost outside today. So you remove the plates. These are plates over the firebox. And this is a little center plate, and this is what they rest on. You can see that lip. Okay, so you remove the center plate. And this is a lifter. See, this has got coil around it, and that's so your fingers don't get burned if you pick it up when it's hot. So I started doing this, and I thought, oh, you know what? I should film this, and I wish I had my camera so I wouldn't have to hold my phone, but this is what we're left with. So push all that down through the grates. The big stoves, my Lady Scotia, has a turn grate. Well, this thing here. And if I had the handle handy for that, I would just turn that, and it would turn the grate here and dump everything off. But, you know, it's just as easy. As you can see, there's a stop right there. And there's the hinge. So it would turn this counterclockwise, and it would dump all the ashes. But I find it just as easy to use this poor little tiny brush, a whisk broom brush. So when that's all done, what you want to do is we're going to do it the old-fashioned way today. We're going to use newspaper. And I don't have a lot, so we're going to pray that it works. Sometimes a lot of newspaper doesn't work any better than a little bit of newspaper, but we're going to try this. And I think this will work because my kindling is really dry, like 4 years old dry, which is unusual as well. This little slide, every stove has them at one place or another next to the firebox. So you want to push that slide over, and if we're going to see if we can get the thing in here, that opens up a damper. Like here, see that damper move? It opens up the damper. This one only goes part way, and that's perfectly fine, trust me. Say hi, Pearly. Pearly's waiting for breakfast, and I stopped to do the stove. This is the damper that you always have to have on the pipe, okay? And my pipes need cleaning. Before I use it next year, I'll be cleaning them. Straight up and down is open. Side to side is closed. Okay, so straight up and down is open. We're going to open it all the way. Open this damper all the way, because what you want to do is you want to get your airflow going. And sometimes that's difficult as well. Let's see if I can park this phone somewhere. Maybe. Sort of. Possibly. And you bear with me just a minute. We'll see if we can get this. I'm leaning it up against the stove plates. See if it falls down. Okay, so always take a piece of newspaper and give it a crimp and a fold like this. I don't know if you can see me. Let me see, keep my hand there. There we go. See, crimp and fold. When we're lighting the actual paper in the stove, we're going to light this and stick it under there so the flame goes up the flue and it heats the pipe. That way you get a better draw right away. If you don't do that, there's a good chance that you are going to get a lot of smoke coming back into the building. So my paper's down in there. Use any paper you can. And I have little tiny apple tree twigs. And best of all, I have softwood kindling. And I have a lot of pine that I get from the Amish. It comes in slabs. And I cut it up. Anything dry that you find outside. This is why you search your land and your woods for any dead wood, because it's the dead wood that's going to be so dry and empty that it makes absolutely fantastic kindling. Now on a bigger stove, you may not have to restart every morning, but this one's got a tiny, tiny firebox that actually has to be fed every hour on the hour almost. So pieces of kindling, make sure you've got enough that it's actually going to keep going while your hardwood lights. But again, my hardwood is really, really old. It's been here for 4 years and we only use a little bit at a time. I do have to restock. Okay, so on top of the kindling, you want some smaller pieces. This is only maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Okay, so smaller pieces of hardwood or softwood. I mean, some people burn pine all the time. The Amish burn pine a lot, but it makes a mess of your chimney. It's been 5 years I've been running this, and I have not yet actually had to clean the chimney. Number one, it's short. Number two, I run a hot fire in it at least once a week, and that takes off a lot of the creosote. And number three, God blesses me with no fires. Thank you, God. So, smaller pieces to start. This is good hardwood. This is like an ash here. Ash is a hardwood, but it burns sometimes like a softwood. It's a fabulous, and you can burn it green. Okay, so I'm going to pick you back up again. You see how I've laid my fire. Paper on the bottom, all the kindling, and the dry dead apple, and then 3 sticks of, and you want to make sure the air gets around it. It's not like building a campfire when you can make a pyramid. So we've got air going through it, okay? And now what we're going to do is we're going to lay back on the plates, just like so. Make sure they're tight. You notice I've got one plate here in the middle that doesn't sit right. It never did. But the hotter the flame, the more that'll warp. So we're going to just sort of do that, because we're going to have to get back into this one. Put it on this side. Okay. And then this one on the front goes on. Because what you're doing is you're starting the fire, and the flame, you want the heat and the flames to go this way, out that flue. Okay? So out the flue, up the chimney, past this flue, or this, oh, God, I can't even remember half of the things I need to do. That comes with age, and you better enjoy your life now, but don't do it stupidly. Okay, so I'm going to set you back down again. Set you back down over here, and it's up against the lifter. So let's see if that holds. And I'm actually going to move you again, because here at the front of the stove, I'm going to open this for just a minute, and you see my paper in there? That's how I'm going to light it. Okay, get my paper up. So light it from there, light it from the back, if I can reach it. And I will show you. Yeah, sorry about that. No standing cell phones, I tell you. Sometimes I don't have one of those fancy gadgets. This is just a pretty basic. Now, I'm going to light the... See, can't do that either. If I lean you there, I'm not going to be able to close my plate. And that wouldn't be good. So here's my coffee pot. Here's my coffee pot. I'm going to lean it up against my coffee pot and hope it does not drop on the ground and break like my last one did. Okay. There we go. Try that. Okay. So, got the plate ready to go. Where'd you go? Got the plate ready to go. Turn this back a little bit. Yeah, pardon the handle. Okay, let's try that. Okay, so I'm lighting the paper. Well, first of all, I'm lighting the front. Okay, I'm going to light the front down under here. Try to get the paper lit. Paper's lit. We're going to close that front right up right away. I'm going to take this paper, light it, and I'm going to set it right under here. Okay, set it right under there. And that's to get that draw. And you can hear it. Hear it? You can see the flame and hear it. So you want to drop that back in there and don't burn your fingers. And then cover that up. Now, down around the back of this thing, I have an air vent. Look at the rust. Isn't that horrible? I fix it every year, and it just is awful when I come back. If you want more draw, Well, there's one on the side on this little stove, but it keeps falling down, so I try not to use this one. So I just crack this, and don't leave it open long. Just, you can see, oh, you can see my ashes. I forgot to take out. I'm going to take the ashes out. Put them over here in the ash bucket. Now your ashes can make lye for soap. Your ashes can be put in your outhouse to promote the breakdown of everything. Your ashes can be put in the garden. Look at that. Hear that? That is roaring. That is great. See that flag? Okay. Now we want to stop that from being so hard. You see it really flared up when I had the bottom open because there's just so much air coming through. Listen to the crackle. Let's take a peek. Oh, look at that. Now that's just with 3 little tiny pieces of newsprint, but some really dry kindling. You go out in the woods and you find all the dead, dry bits of things, small branches and little tiny things. And we're just going to, now that it's going, we're going to close this, but we're not going to close this all the way. We're going to take it to 2 o'clock. Okay? 2 o'clock. 12, 1, 2, 3 closes it. 2 o'clock it is. Okay. And this one, we close down to maybe an inch and a half. We're going to let those 3 pieces of wood get really established. Look at that. Doesn't take long when you've got old wood because it's dry, and that's why it just eats my wood so much, because it is so dry. And you can see them kind of going down as the kindling burns down. So there's your stove started. And don't leave your fire starter on the wood stove. That would be a really bad idea. Here are my gloves for working around the stove. There's a pair of jersey gloves, and inside are a pair of those fuzzy yellow gloves from Harbor Freight. I think I got both of these from Harbor Freight. But it's nice padding, and you can see they're wearing out. I need to change them at some point. Got one for each hand, and I never work around the stove without them when the stove is hot. Okay. There's always a water bucket on the stove because this stove doesn't actually have a reservoir. See, nothing on the side, just a little side plate. So the reservoir would normally keep water warm all day. So you could draw it out for coffee or washing or whatever. And this one doesn't, so I keep water on top. Plus the bucket acts in the rain like a catch. As you can see, it was catching water yesterday. You can see the stains in the water. Every time I walk in here, I just think of that guy and I just want to poke him in the eye. My coffee cup, or my coffee pot, I've got water in it to keep warm all day, but I'm going to actually make coffee. Yep, and I'll show you when I'm done and it starts to perk. So I'm shutting down the thing just a bit here, just on the stove. I'm leaving the flue up here, cracked it too, and I'm putting on my coffee pot. Because this keeps the flame under the plates. When you close that, it keeps it coming up under the plates. So, here's my little lid. This is a percolator, okay? So this little stand goes in the water. The water's in the bottom, and the water is actually filled to just above the edge of this. If you put your little filter in here, and it's got water coming up, you get too much water, it's not going to work properly. Well, it will, but it'll work, but it won't work great. So I put a little filter in there just to keep the fine grounds, because now the only coffee you can get is ground for coffee makers, which is so fine, it just goes through these little tiny holes. This plate goes on the top, and it's important because it diffuses the water that's coming up out of the little hole. The water boils, pumps up here, hits this little glass thing that you can, or the little glass knobby that you can watch it perk because it's so cool. And then it diffuses it down into this, and it goes over the coffee like an actual coffee. Well, this is the first coffee maker, I guess. Over the coffee, there's 3 heaping teaspoons, and I mean heaping, of coffee in there. And you can let it boil, and perk for as long as you want to make it as strong as you want. I mean, I've had it where it can stand a spoon up in it, but usually I like it so you can stir it nicely, and if you need milk, it looks like, you know, milk, cream, whatever. Okay, so we're going to wait a little bit. We're going to just check. We'll move her over and just tip this up. See how the fire... Oh, and look at that. This is a perfect example. This is stuck, okay? That happens when the stove's been cold. Okay, see, look at me yanking on that with my old arthritic hand. So what I'm going to show you how to do, gently, 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 gently. Remember, our motto here is carefully, cautiously, you know, gently add that on. Just give it a tap. Just a tap. Put your wood back. I brought maple in yesterday. Look at that. I had to, literally, because the maple is just so big. This isn't maple. Maple's down here. This is a maple. It's a punky maple because it was rotting. But man, that stuff burns, and it makes the house smell so sweet. I didn't whack it enough. I still can't get it off. Let me try another one. This is a solid one. Okay, you hear it bang? Oh boy, that is stuck. Okay, well, that's not going to move until it heats up properly. Let's try this one. Oh, cheapers, creepers. Okay, well, I'm giving you the perfect example. Let's see if I can get it off. There she goes. That's one thing about them warping. You can hit them, but I'll tell you truly, you hit it wrong, oh, you're done. I need to get that front one off. You see how? You've got to shift it around now until it fits. So we'll put this over here. And I need to get this log. Keep the top of your stove clean of any dust and stuff because you don't want it to... Oh, see, look at that. Getting one off helped me get the other ones on. You can see how that's burned down. And put this in here. I'm going to have to put the phone down for just 2 shakes of a lamb's tail because... See if that stays there. I've got to cautiously move my coffee pot. Lift this very gently. I want you to... If you're going to be doing this, you need to practice while the stove is cold. Lifting the center one, tipping it up toward the back to get a log in. Because otherwise, if you do that and you're not practiced with it, you're going to dump them all out and then you have your plates in the fire. And that's really not a fine idea whatsoever. Some of these are pretty long and I'm a little bit cautious. Should fit. Tip it up. Sorry, my arm's in the way, but oh, there you go. Lost you completely against the bucket. But there's 2 in. I'm going to show you what I did about tipping the plates. Yeah, I know it's a phone and it drives me insane. I'm trying to get my lifter. Okay, so you do this while it's cold. So if you need to put a long one in, okay, you take the front plate off. And I did this without my gloves on because I'm used to it. But don't do it without your gloves on, for heaven's sakes. And you tip this up. Okay, you see how the back plate moves? See how the smoke's coming out? We don't want that. And then you tip it back down and make sure it's set before you put your front plate on. But this is going to get my coffee boiling. Okay, I'm going to actually shift this one this way. Hopefully it won't stick as badly. And see how this one's warped. And sometimes, I mean, these things shift and you see the fire going over top of the oven. I got to clean that. That's soot. And I have to clean that soot out of there. And I'll do that tomorrow morning before I start the stove. You know, this plate has always been a pain. But it was an inexpensive stove. We got it in Georgia at a little country store I found online. And I've never been able to find it again. And I wish I could remember. But it's just a little tiny cook stove. And let me get my glove over here. Because I'm not opening this without, these handles are hot. So I use my glove. And you can see the oven heating up. Remember, the oven is very small in these. Oh my gosh, look at that. That's horrible. Well, this is all going to be scraped down and repainted this week or next week. This coming week. This is Saturday. I cook everything on the right side. I turn it a quarter turn every, like, 2 or 3 minutes, literally, throughout the cooking because the stove is so hot on one side. The box is so small. So there it is. And we'll get the coffee set back on here. And I'll bring you back when it's perking so you can see.